Hey, Aldersgate Abilene, Pastor Rich here. This is your More to the Story. So we are in Luke chapter 15 with what we usually refer to as the parable of the prodigal son. But if you were at church yesterday, you know there's much more to it. All of chapter 15 begins with Jesus speaking to the notorious sinners and the Pharisees and teachers of the religious law. They're the two main audiences. We, of course, are also an audience. Then he tells three parables back to back. The parable of the lost sheep, then the lost coin, then the lost son. That's where I want to focus for just a minute. I think all of us in this parable that we usually call the prodigal son, usually, as it's been taught, as we've learned it, as we think about it, we see ourselves through the lens of being the prodigal, the one who's been lost, who's gone out into the wild living, who's turned their back on the father and taken their inheritance and wasted it and then has to be restored. That probably is our story. At least at some point in each of our lives, we're faced with the fact that we can't save ourselves and God has to restore us to our place in His family when we come to Him in a spirit of confession and repentance. But I wonder how often we find ourselves in the role of the older brother. In a very real sense, that's kind of who Jesus was talking about when He was speaking to the Pharisees and the teachers of the religious law. There was something about the older brother's attitude of judgment and condemnation toward his younger brother. He didn't want the father to restore him. He didn't want the father to forgive him. He wanted judgment. And the father brought reconciliation. He wanted condemnation. And the father brought forgiveness. And Jesus makes it clear that the older brother is now the one under that sense of judgment. Because really the main focus of this whole story, this parable, this teaching moment that Jesus has, is the father. That whether we have been in the role of the younger brother or we've been in the role of the older brother, all of us as the church are called to behave like the father, going out, extending grace and mercy and forgiveness. That when anyone comes to the Father in confession and repentance, we join the angels in celebration. That's what it's about, isn't it? This whole parable, all three of them, are about the gospel. They're about the mission of the church, to take the love and grace of Jesus to a hurting and broken world who's so desperately in need of God's grace. So whether you this morning, this day, this afternoon are so conscious of your sin and your brokenness, you know you're in need of God's forgiveness, be the prodigal. At your first breath of repentance, God is ready to restore. Or maybe you find yourself with a spirit of condemnation and judgment towards others. Maybe it's time to lay that down and join Jesus in His movement of reconciliation and grace, extending His love to a world in such desperate need. Chew on that a little bit. That's your More to the Story. Have a great week. See you Sunday.